Hey there, welcome back to another devlog on the things I've been working on. In this devlog, we're going to be having a little chat about the future of the devlog that I started talking about in the previous one. But before we get on to that, let's finish up the last piece of the scene toolbar puzzle, getting it all packaged up inside the package manager. Or at least I would like to say that, but I ran into a problem that took most of my day off to figure out. I copied the tool over into its own project to keep it isolated from everything. I then found out that in order for it to be a package, I would need to split out the editor and runtime scripts into their own assemblies. I already had that pretty much set up just because of separating out the files, save for one or two files from a moment of laziness. However, here's the issue. The editor assembly needs to reference the runtime assembly, but no matter what I do, I can't figure out why one assembly can't recognize that the other one exists. I feel that I'm missing out on something obvious, but this is oddly difficult to look up since custom packages for the package manager are fairly recent and a lot of my Google searches contain older topics about packages. For now, I guess this will just live off of the package manager and be ripped from project to project instead. Which means if I want to revisit an old project and build from that version of the scene toolbar, I'll be making an entirely different branch of the tool. Since that didn't work like I thought it would, and I still need a coding refresher, let's write some code. About writing code. My Codewriter that I use for my devlogs has been in need of a rework. The end result is great, but the execution is awkward to say the least. The original idea was that I would keep a database of keywords associated to a color to save time on future code snippets. In actuality, I spend even more time adding new words and fixing words where the parts are colored differently. Since I have to manually fix everything, I might as well just go all in on manually coloring. First thing that we're going to need is a way to select text. Unfortunately, system selection isn't something I can access in Unity, so let's just go with raycast. Every character in TextMesh Pro and regular Unity text is just a quad, so we can split that into two triangles. We've got the original triangles, and then by swapping out each point with the click point, we can create three more for each triangle. It's a lot of triangles. If the area of these three triangles is equal to the original triangle, the user selected that character. And we'll build on that by converting that character into a parent word for even faster coloring. Now that we have our selected characters, we can map each character's index to a color, and we'll keep that in an array. Since I want to access previous code segments, let's go ahead and create a text file to store all that in with JSON. We'll use that color array to swap out the geometry's vertex color. This gives me the benefit of keeping data separated, and if I wanted to, I could add extra sets of data in the future, like italics or wavy text or something. Finally, it's a bit of a pain to manually get consistent timing with Unity's game recorder. Just like the package manager issue, the documentation API isn't too helpful. But I guess this project is in preview, so I guess it gets a pass this time. I know how to get around this though. We can use an editor function that can call menu functions just from their path. And after using this tool during this video's editing phase, I gotta say, I should have gone the manual route to begin with. Moving on, let's talk about some exciting stuff. Finances and time management. With my day job, I've decided to move a small percentage of my paycheck away to buying company stock. If I want to inevitably pivot my day job to game development, I can always cash out these stocks if I wind up in a bind. Since I'm in a pretty safe position with my job, with everything going on, I want to try to make up that money. I don't have much time right now since it's getting closer to the holidays and I'll be picking up more hours of which would be more exhausting. But past that, I'll need projects that are more likely to turn a profit with a shorter time frame than a game. For the past few years, I've sold 3 or 4 assets on Unity's Asset Store, and a few others. They've sold from time to time, mainly on the Unity Asset Store, and after a while they've recouped their cost and profited. The best part, I have not done any additional work on these. So my idea for devlogs is to add in segments of asset creation. Way back in my last year of college, I did some scoping out for viable asset categories, and one group I found was the instrument scene. Instruments require time and research to recreate. Most assets at the time had poly counts for their era, around 2014. You've got plenty of source material, and the comments and designs are legally good. My original vision at the time was to release a few individual props, and then include them in a way larger bundle. I did have problems pursuing it, which led me to put the project on hold until now. My modeling speed at the time was pretty slow and wasn't suited for curvy, hard surface shapes. I was using Maya LT at the time, so any plugin with Python, pretty much every one of them, is out the window. So if I wanted to gain more resolution in awkward curves, there would be a lot of manual tweaking to get it right. Now I use Blender and I have so many more options to work with that it's ridiculous. It's making modeling fun for me again, and maybe one day I'll remember all of these hotkeys. With the texturing side, getting realistic visuals can be tricky, especially when you look closely at the seams, since my modeling approach didn't have any triplanar options, nor was the program that stable since it lived on top of Photoshop, and sometimes a Photoshop update would just come and break the entire program. Sometimes you'd boot the program up and it would just crash, and the best solution I found was to just re-download and reinstall everything, which took about 2 hours with my internet speed at the time. Having to just deal with that on a constant basis probably had the largest impact on why I shied away from 3D art for a while. Now I use Substance for my texturing and it just works. Well, maybe if I could copy-paste colors with a right-click instead of using the eyedropper tool, but regardless, it's still miles better. The final piece of the puzzle is that I'm just better than how I was back then, and more knowledgeable, and I have a confident attitude that I can in fact do this. As for how this will fit into the devlogs, I'll likely keep them at the end of the videos to talk about life updates, or to just have a change of pace from a primarily coding focused video. After all, starting a new game has heaps of code iteration at the start, and it is pretty time consuming to present the concepts nicely. I think having some time to chill with an art time lapse will strike a nice balance. Before I move on with these instruments I've been working on, I'd love to create a good old wood material to pair well with the models. But I'll save that for next time, along with the return of Plant Games development. And with that, hope you guys stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.